Potassium is a silvery metal with the atomic number of 19. The symbol for potassium, rather confusingly, is K, word for Kalium. The name actual potassium, though, comes from the original source of potassium, which is something called potash. So by taking the ashes of burnt wood or other plants and soaking these ashes in water, potassium is then transferred from the ashes into the water in the form of potassium carbonate. Potassium-rich water was then concentrated later and used in the making of saltpeter or potassium nitrate, one of the main ingredients in gunpowder. In the early history of the American colonies, potassium in the potash industry as a whole was vitally important, especially as it could be exported to England, where there was always a high demand for gunpowder. America had a virtually unlimited supply of trees which could be used as the raw ingredient for potash. Trees contain substantial amounts of potassium locked up in the xylem, which is a structure within the trunks of trees and the stems of other plants which transport the water from the roots up to the leaves. Soils which are deficient in potassium, of course, then hinder the plant growth. So potash is also used as a fertiliser to supplement soils which are either short of potassium or have had their potassium that was in the soil extracted by a previous crop. And in modern times, with the decline in use of gunpowder, the most common use for potash is now in fertiliser. They no longer use it directly from trees. Instead, they use what's known as evaporate, which are basically sedimentary rocks created by evaporation, hence the name. The rocks normally contain a combination of potassium chloride, potassium manganese chloride, potassium oxide, potassium sulfide, potassium nitrate, in all various proportions. Since the rocks are actually a result of minerals being left behind as the water was evaporated away, it means that minerals forming the rocks are water soluble. Now, there are significant deposits of evaporate in America, Canada, Germany, Brazil, Argentina, Chile, Belarus, and Russia. Millions of tons of evaporate are extracted each year. Since geologists know exactly how evaporate is formed, identifying new locations as potential sources of evaporate are relatively easy to find. With millions of tons of evaporate being extracted each year, evaporate is relatively common, so it's unlikely to run out anytime soon. Now, it isn't just plants that need potassium. Animals, and especially humans, need significant amounts of potassium to function. Potassium is critical in balancing out the fluid levels in cells. Potassium also helps regulate muscle contractions and helps the nerves transmit electrical signals around the body. In addition, potassium can also assist in filtering out excess sodium in your body. Thankfully, since plants contain substantial amounts of potassium, it's relatively easy to get enough potassium in the food we actually eat. So raisins, avocados, spinach, potatoes, and of course bananas are all good sources of potassium in the diet. Potassium is also needed in muscles. Consuming animal meat can also add potassium to the diet. However, particular meats vary considerably in their potassium content. So, for instance, chicken wings are much lower in potassium than pork or lamb chops, or even sausages. Now, potassium can also be combined with two oxygen atoms to form potassium superoxide. Unlike the more common potassium oxide, which is formed from just one oxygen atom and one potassium atom, and is widely found in nature, potassium superoxide has a relatively loose grip on the oxygen molecules, and potassium will swap out the oxygen molecules for carbon dioxide molecules, making it a useful substance in low oxygen environments. It means it can be used to provide oxygen as a source for firefighters or in spacecraft or even on submarines. At the same time, the potassium superoxide will scrub or remove the carbon dioxide from the air.